Well, it seems like I have to make an explanation video because the same comments start to pop up over and over again in my cold truths about Kekistan video. First of all, this video was not intended to be successful. Sounds strange, but I never thought it would get a lot of traction. There were not a handful of videos about Kekistan out there when I started to work in a mine. I was wrong. Kekistan is on the march and it gets stronger every day. Chardonnay. Second, yes, I will make another Kekistan video. The next video will deal with ancient Kekistan technology, because I found some of it in my garden and I really have to tell you about that. Then we have to talk about Akkad. Was Akkad the first one who mentioned Kekistan? Of course not. Kekistan is older than the pyramids, but the movement went moving after Sargon of Akkad pushed the narrative. Is it fair that I give him the credits I gave him? Yeah, I think so. He's at least what Paulus was for the Christianity. He made the great PR. I stick with what I've said. Without him, not even 200 guys would talk about Kekistan. 200. Yeah, well, there are more Kekistanis around than 200. I was wrong there. Again, I thought it won't get a lot of traction. I was wrong. Also, I meant, and I said, if even 200 are around, the idea is valid. If anything, you have to take it as a lower limit, not as an upper limit, but still, 200 was quite on the low side, isn't it? Okay, and then we have to go to Rome. Sorry, but with this topic, the Dunning-Kruger effect runs crazy. First, Rome exists to this very day. We call it Rome. SPQR is still a topic in Rome. Rome puts it to this very day on its manholes. Rome never ceased to exist, in a way. Italy is not Rome. Of course, they say that they are the inheritors of Rome, but the Holy Roman Empire of German nations said the same thing, and Napoleon had ambitions to say the same thing, and there were another guy with a Reich and a lot of banners and the idea of an empire that holds for 1,000 years. Who was that? Don't know. In other words, reviving Rome is a sport over here in Europe. Everybody with a bit of might tries that. Italy existed back then, as a name and as a landmass. Like we call the Iberian Peninsula the Iberian Peninsula, but the people they're living, they don't call them Iberians, or very, very rarely. If you get your time machine and went over to medieval Italy and tell someone in Milano that he's an Italian, you would get a strange look. At best. You would get the same strange look if you went over to Germany in this time period and tell them that they are Germans or speak German. Keep in mind, even in the Roman Empire, you were more likely to find someone who spoke broken Greek than Latin. Everybody spoke Greek, but not all of the people there spoke Latin. You see, language is not very a homogeneous thing. So the whole idea of constructing people out of languages is a German sport and was adopted by the world. But you run quite fast into walls with that, it just don't work. Take the Normandy for example. I like this as an example because it's special funny. Scandinavians came over and took over the place that we know today as North France. They conquered it, but they took over the customs and the language of this place. And then they went over to a place we know today as England and conquered that. This was to this time ruled by the Anglo-Saxons, which came from a part we know today as Germany, but not from the part we know today as Saxon, because this is down here. And this place is now Saxons because the king of Saxon dealt this place and changed it with another king, and it's complicated, okay? Europe history is always complicated and names don't say a lot sometimes. And I think this misunderstanding is quite an American problem, but let's try it with an American perspective, shall we? Imagine you go to the Great Plains in the 12th century and tell the guys there that they are Americans, more precise that they are US Americans. Can you see the problem? The problem we have in Europe is that every little town has 1,000 years of history, and under different rulers, nations and empires. I live in a part of the German-speaking world that used to be under Roman rule. That's the reason why we have a wine culture and way better food than the German speakers in the north. Sorry, Germans. Italy is a relative new idea as a people. To say that Leonardo da Vinci was Italian is as correct as saying that Chief Running Bear was US American. He won't agree to that. Or you could argue that Portugals are Iberians because they are on the Iberian Peninsula, but the historical Iberians, that's where the name comes from, were just in the south. So, and that was the whole point I wanted to make with the video, the cold truth about Kekistan. I wanted to show that the whole nation narrative is more or less every time quite absurd. And there should be no doubt that in 200 years' time, our atlas would look quite differently. And the idea that Kekistan could be on this map is not as impossible as your normie teachers would make you think. As always, thanks for listening. For more, hit the subscribe button, feel free to share, and have a Shadowlay day.